Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, I am absolutely pumped for today's deep dive. We are jumping right into a fascinating, highly structured, and completely hidden world that's described in ancient texts and modern teachings alike, the world of the Jinn. But more specifically, we're going to look at who truly controls them and uncover the dark truth about their leaders. The source material we're looking at today lays out an intricate, unseen network that operates literally right alongside our own.
So that brings us to the core question here. Who actually controls this unseen world? The sources detail what is essentially a supernatural syndicate. We're talking about a highly organized chain of command. And today we're going to break down this network, true crime style. We'll look at exactly who is at the top pulling the strings, how they gather their cosmic intelligence, and how they manipulate human beings right down here on Earth.
All right, let's get into it. Section 1. The Origins of Sorcery.
Now, to really grasp how this unseen syndicate works, we kind of have to look back at history to establish who holds the legitimate power and who is just dealing in deception. The texts explicitly clear up a major historical misconception here. On one side, we have Prophet Suleiman, or Solomon. Now, he was given immense divine authority over the jinn, but, and this is absolutely crucial, the sources emphasize he never practiced magic. His power was a legitimate divine decree. Contrasting that entirely, we have the devils. The texts tell us they're the ones who disbelieved and actually introduced illicit magic to humanity in the first place, passing down sorcery through entities like Harut and Marut in ancient Babylon. So the big takeaway here is that true divine authority is completely separate from the illicit sorcery taught by this rebellious leadership.
Moving right along to Section 2, the Unseen Jinn Network. This is where it gets wild. According to the texts, the truth about the jinn's leadership is that it operates like a dark bureaucracy, completely centralized under Iblis, or Satan. He's basically acting as the ultimate kingpin of this network. And what is just utterly fascinating is that he supposedly maintains a vast index of human targets. And how do you think this database is sorted? It's sorted by the target's mother's name. Yeah? This network actively tracks the misery caused on Earth. And get this, the highest honors, the ultimate rewards from Iblis himself, are given to the operatives who successfully separate a husband and wife. So we aren't just talking about random chaos. It's a highly organized, targeted syndicate of manipulation with very clear directives coming straight from the top.
Which brings us to Section 3, Eavesdroppers in the Heavens. So if they're running this elaborate supernatural syndicate, how on Earth, or rather off Earth, are their leaders getting inside information about human destinies? To understand their intelligence gathering, you have to picture this awe-inspiring cosmic event described in the source material. When a divine decree is made in the heavens, the angels beat their wings in submission. The text described the sound as being like a chain beating on a rock. It's a moment of immense, undeniable power and revelation. And it's exactly that moment of vulnerability that the jinn attempt to exploit.
Picture this almost heist-like sequence. The angels are speaking in the clouds about future events decreed for Earth. In response, the jinn physically stack themselves. They literally stand on one another's shoulders to reach up toward the heavens and eavesdrop. Now, if they manage to snatch just a single word of truth, the heavens react. The borders are guarded, and the eavesdropping jinn are struck by flaming fire, which the texts equate to meteors. But often, just a split second before being struck, they manage to pass that single stolen word of truth down the chain, all the way back to Earth. And then, they mix it with 100 lies before dropping it into the ear of a fortune teller.
Let's talk about those lies. Section 4, the fortune teller's lies. Let's bring that whole cosmic narrative right back down to the earthly, human level. How does this stolen, corrupted intelligence actually fuel local, everyday scams right in our own neighborhoods? Well, whether it's sand reading, tea leaves, coffee cups, numerology, looking into iron pots, or even tarot cards, the sources stress that the aesthetic method honestly doesn't matter. The whole shebang is connected. Every single one of these fortune tellers, whether they personally realize it or not, is drawing their information from the exact same illicit demonic network. They are basically the earthly endpoints for the cosmic espionage ordered by their hidden leaders. And here is exactly why this trap is so incredibly effective. 100. Humans fall for the scam over and over again because the jinn mix that one stolen grain of heavenly truth with 100 absolute lies. When that one true event actually happens, the human victim gets all excited and says, "No way! The fortune teller was right!" while completely ignoring the 100 other things that were totally fabricated. It is a highly calculated psychological trap designed specifically by the top of the command chain.
Now, because of this direct link to a demonic syndicate, the texts outline some really severe spiritual consequences. The sources explicitly state that whoever goes to a fortune teller and asks them something, their prayer will not be accepted for 40 days. And here's what's absolutely vital to take away from this. The scholars and the sources note that this rule applies even if you don't actually believe them. Even if you're just reading a horoscope in the newspaper for a quick laugh, or you're watching a tarot reading on TV purely for entertainment, you are still tapping into this forbidden network. And that triggers a severe 40-day block. The stakes here are very real.
So what do we do about it? Section 5. Ruqya, the ultimate protection.
We've outlined the mechanics of the sorcery problem, but how do humans actually protect themselves according to these traditions? To prove that the earthly effects of this network are taken seriously, the texts share a really compelling historical anecdote. Prophet Muhammad himself was actually once targeted by a sorcerer from Mecca. The sorcerer managed to acquire the prophet's comb and some of his hair, tied knots in it, cast a spell, and then carefully hid the materials deep in a well under a date palm tree. This specific event really reinforces that magic is viewed as a real negative force directed by these unseen leaders, a force that requires a real legitimate remedy.
Okay, so how do you tell the difference between getting a legitimate cure and just falling right back into a demonic trap? On one side, you have Ruqya Sharia, which is the permissible, divine source. It uses clear, transparent tools, Quranic verses, and straightforward prayers. On the exact opposite side, you have Kabiraji, or sorcery, which relies entirely on that illicit network. It uses hidden rituals, it taps into Iblis's dark index, and, here's a huge red flag the sources highlight, the sorcerer will very often ask for your mother's name. Why? So they can look you up in that specific supernatural database.
Therefore, the authorized method of protection is strictly defined. Ruqya Sharia is the permissible spiritual cure. The texts note that early followers were explicitly permitted to use these protective recitations and prayers, but with one massive condition attached. It must be entirely free from hidden polytheism, which is known as shirk, and completely free from any obscure rituals. It's got to be clear, it's got to be transparent, and it must rely solely on divine authority. That is how you sever any ties to the jinn's network.
Which leaves us with this final, lingering thought, based on everything we've unpacked today about the leadership of this hidden world. It is a society that is absolutely full of horoscopes, mystics, and hidden influences. You really have to ask yourself, are the unseen forces you are trusting drawing from divine light, or are they pulling from a cosmic network of deception? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive on the Explainer, and remember to always keep questioning what lies beneath the surface.